The other thing that I always check is I always check the phase between the snare drum and the overheads. Now, as you can see, I have the Q-clone, but I also have an API equalizer plug-in so that I could change the phase to the snare drum. So now if you listen to this and I reverse the phase, because obviously the overhead somehow, either the mic cable was out of phase or a patch cord or something, they were out of phase. So if I take this out, when you listen to them, hear how it gets thin? You always want to check that. You also always want to check the snare drum to the kick drum in terms of phase. And this is out at the moment. I'll put that in, take the EQ out, and just flip the phase. And that gets smaller, so obviously they're in phase. All these little things add up. It's like I said to people years ago, if you give me like 1.5% in a box, I'll take it every time. Because it's kind of like building race cars. The guy with the extra 1.5% always seems to win. Okay, also if you look at the ratios of the waveforms, you can see that the outside kick is a lot smaller than the inside. You can see that the top snare is, reasonably bigger than the underside. This tom track, you can see the leakage in the toms, which I'll show you. There is going to be leakage in tom tracks, but you can't be afraid of that, because if you listen to the tom tracks by themselves, this is what they sound like. The level of the leakage is kind of the same on both sides. If you happen to have too much on one side or the other, I think it's a mic placement issue, which means that you have to start moving the mic a little bit differently. But if you can see, the leakage is about the same and the snare is pretty much in the middle, which again adds to the buildup of the snare in the snare track and the overheads. The more powerful it gets when it's all in the same place. Something's not pulling one side or the other.